only one team in the country has given up fewer than 10 points. Does that mean Ohio State is a perfect finished product as a defense? Probably not. So let's nitpick. He's Zach Bourne. I am Austin Ward. It's BuckIQ, and we only made it through 1 week. And then, Zach, I was like, well, there were some things that maybe we should talk about that weren't flawless, even though it was just Youngstown State.
Sometimes that's our job, right? Here's the thing. A lot of people that follow us, a lot of people in Buckeye Nation on social media want to just say that, hey, people are complaining, no one's looking at the positives. Guess what? The players in that facility right now, they're not paying attention to the positives. They're looking at the areas where, hey, where can I get better? As a player, that's what you do. You don't look at the highlight plays. Like, hey, those are the things that coach looks at one time during film, and literally there's no replay of it. It's, hey, there's, so-and-so making a tackle or so-and-so making a sack. That's it. It's the areas that there needs to be some coaching. There's some the areas where some accountability needs to be had. Those are the times in film where there's a whole bunch of replays being done, things going in slow motion, discussions being had. Like, that's what people have to realize. As media, we're not nitpicking those things and making a big deal about it. That's actually what the players go over in film.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be wild if they weren't, Zach. I mean, you've been through those meetings, you know that's how it works. But like, if we're talking about some of the stuff from the outside and they're not trying to correct it, that would be shocking. That would be coaching malpractice.
100%. But that's also what the players want to go over too, right? Like when you're breaking down film, plays that were bad. I mean, you remember the game that had just happened. So there's things that you want to look at. What could I have done in these situations? What could I have done differently? Like, if I got beat, why did I get beat? What was I thinking in this situation? Like, there are so many questions to be had from breaking down film from certain situations, whatever it might be. And so that's our job too, is to give people insight into what those players are going through in the meeting room. What are the coaches pointing out? If we weren't doing that, we wouldn't be doing our jobs. You and I wouldn't be around if those things weren't being brought up.
Yeah, there wouldn't be any need for us to talk about it, but we love to anyway. And I wonder, I think that there is probably a motivated group of Buckeyes that are not happy. I know Denzel Burke wasn't, and you mentioned him on the Sunday Blitz. Like, his exact quote was like, we were supposed to mug those dudes, and they didn't do it. I mean, 7 points, yes, it's a win. It was a comfortable win, and only one touchdown is pretty good. It's it's close to the best you can do. But Ohio State has made it clear through both of those first two games that they didn't meet the standard for themselves. Now, they're not going to shut out every team. Denzel Burke did talk after both of those games. That's what he wants the goal to be. It's never going to happen. Averaging 5 points given up per game is going to win Ohio State every game it plays. I promise it. But some of this too that we're evaluating is how good is Indiana's offense, the talent disparity between Ohio State and Youngstown State, and trying to figure out what that means for the Buckeyes, not just Saturday against Western Kentucky, but Notre Dame on the road in 10 days.
Yeah, well, I think you bring up some great points. As a defense, it's like, what are you supposed to say? You're giving up an average 5 points a game, right? I mean, it's not like these teams are junior high football teams or high school football teams that you're going up against. They're dudes that can play the game of football. They're Division I. They're Division I athletes for a reason, even if it's Division I AA. Like, these dudes can play football. So being able to be in the position that Ohio State defense is right now, from giving up points, the rankings where they're at, that's pretty damn good if you ask me. I think the issue is, what the fans see from the standpoint of there's really been no glimpse and glams, and there's no they've kind of been some victories where you just feel like they're walking through the park, right? There's no big plays. Yeah, Denzel Burke's interception, but there's not the big sack or, the things that jump off at the TV at you that we're so accustomed to seeing. And so I think that's the issue. The players feel it. It's almost like they're in a sleepwalk. I was part of those games. I mean, in 2012, the Purdue game, the Indiana game, like there were games that year where you just felt like, hey, we're kind of sleepwalking through this. We come out victorious, but like, man, there's so much improvement that can be had. And I know that's what those guys are feeling right now. Like, you look statistically and you're like, how can you get much better? Maybe a shutout, but God, that's so dang hard in Division I football. And so I think, what Denzel Burke's saying, what some of those other guys are thinking and feeling and probably saying behind closed doors is, man, we just need to turn up the heat a little bit, right? We need to turn up the pressure. We need to go out there and just absolutely dog these guys, which you hear Denzel Burke saying, instead of kind of going through the motions, you're just getting the job done.
Yeah, and if what they're most upset about is letting any points get on the board, then let's talk about the touchdown drive and the plays they give up. So Zach Bourne going to break it down as only he can on BuckIQ. Let's roll the tape. All right, Zach, let's get into it. 3rd and 3 situation. Ohio State already had an early lead, looking to get off the field, and they do not do it. What goes wrong here?
Here's the constant theme that you're going to see here on these plays is 3rd down. As a great defense, you have to be able to get off the field on 3rd down. Like that's your bread and butter, man. That's where the money's made. The issue is very most is you see these guys get their get off, right? Their get off has to be perfect. These guys, they're the fast twitch dudes that, these 5-star guys that they recruited here at Ohio State. Your get off is so important here. We're not gonna single any guys out, but there's 2 guys on this defensive line right here that you see the ball snap, and you see JTT is almost 4 or 5 yards back in the backfield, and you've got other guys who are almost at the line of scrimmage still. It's like, look, the quarterback's got the ball in his hands, and you've got other guys who are barely off the ball. The quarterback's not going to feel any pressure. JTT's up the field, but no one else has done anything. Heck, Tommy's coming from distance on a blitz right here and is farther in the backfield than the other 3 defensive linemen, which is a problem. Quarterback has a clean pocket, is able to step into a throw. I think, people were talking about, I was super excited about Malik Hartford getting his first start. Jim Knowles talked about it in his weekly press conference, how he wasn't extremely happy with Malik's play on the first drive. And I think you can see here, right? Obviously, Cameron Martinez got beat off the ball. He's 2 steps behind. Granted, he recovers greatly here, but they're playing some kind of 2-man, right? Malik Hartford's supposed to be playing over top. The inside receiver does not need, or this actually Denzel right there, but does not need any help. Malik needed to keep on getting depth and play over top of these 2 guys to give some kind of support. Obviously, he didn't. Was late on his read. Cam here just gets beaten one-on-one. But outside of Malik, Cam can't let this happen. Like, I understand it's 3rd and 3 and you're sitting on something short, but at the same time, man, like, you're out here for a reason. You need to get a good check off the line of scrimmage. You need to be able to make a speedy recovery and get your hand on the football, and that doesn't happen. You got to be able to make the play, and that does not happen here.
I was kind of amazed when I watched it back to get ready for BuckIQ, Zach. Like, this spot right here, like, Cam Martinez had made that a much closer play. I know we talked about it on Saturday, and like you can't really see it as much on this film right there behind the score bug there. Like, Cam Martinez was beat. The closing speed was good here. I know what you're saying. Like, you can't be in this position, but he made this a much closer play than I thought. And sometimes I think that, for me, I guess my question goes back to, if you give any quarterback, FCS or not, that much time in the pocket, most of those guys are capable of making some pretty good throws. And this one actually wound up having to be close to perfect because Cam Martinez did close some of that ground up.
No doubt. And if you go back there, I guarantee you in the meeting room, Malik Hartford's getting circled right here, right? Because he's the high safety over these 2 wide receivers, this side of the field, right? You can see it's a man. Malik's, the guys up top are fine. Malik's supposed to be supporting here, and you obviously see how late he is. He's helping on a guy right there that doesn't need any help. He needs to be over top of this and be able to break on this football. And so that's the issue, is that, Malik's probably getting singled out other than Cam, because Cam in the back of his mind thinks like, man, I got my safety over top here. I can help. But as we know, you can't assume, right? Yep. You got to be able to go out there and make a play. Here you go. Next one, 3rd and 4 again. Like we said, common theme here. Guess what? You got the long ball on 3rd and 3 early on down. What are you going to get now? 3rd and 4, guess what? You're going to get some kind of short pass pattern, especially Where are we, Austin? We're in the
In
red
the
zone.
red zone.
In the red zone, right? In the red zone. What are you thinking? Jim Knowles dials up a blitz here. Love the aggressiveness. Hey, 3rd and 4 in the red zone. Let's get off the field. Let's make the quarterback make a really quick decision. Our DBs, what do we want them to do? Cover for the least amount of time, right? Especially 3rd and 4. It's like, hey, listen, these guys are going to be playing tight on the wide receivers. Let's get up. Let's jam them. Let's make the quarterback make a decision. Let's break on it. The issue is, Lathan here is playing, 7 yards off the football, and you get a simple little out route. Quarterback gets drilled, right? They're absolutely drilled when he releases the football. But it's such an easy pitch and catch right here, and that's the problem.
Yeah, and I think, Zach, I defer to you. That's why we have these, like, on the scheme questions. Like, both of these were blitz pressures, and that's going to lead to more situations where the safeties have to play one-on-one and win, if that all goes back to the defensive line not being able to get home with 4. Like, I think I've been able to learn at least that much.
Yeah, and we've talked about on this show on multiple seasons is know the down and distance, right? You're playing the sticks. We've talked about that so many times, whereas it's 3rd and 10 and you play off and you're able to come down and make a tackle, right? We saw it in the Michigan game last year where, guess what? Cam Brown tried making a play, 6 yards down the field when it was 3rd and 10. The guy goes 80 yards for a touchdown. Here, guess what? You're playing the sticks. You know the defense that's being called. It's basically an all-out blitz from this standpoint. You're playing man. The quarterback's going to be forced to make a quick decision. 3rd and 4, guess what? I'm getting up on that dude. If anything, I'm sitting at the first down marker line right here. If anything, if I'm Lathan Ransom, I'm sitting right there on that yellow line that you see where the first down marker is from the TV standpoint, right? I'm looking at the stick. I'm sitting right on it. And guess what? I'm going to make sure I can get my hands on this wide receiver. You're allowed your hands on him within the first 5 yards. Go get your hands on him right now, right? If you're sitting right there, you get your hands on him, then you're able to break, and it's a much tougher throw for this quarterback. Instead, you're sitting off of this guy. You're backing up. He makes a simple out cut, and it's just a simple catch. And then you got to make the tackle, but by this point, you're giving up an easy first down.
Yeah, the damage was already done there. And then, Ohio State got tackles on 1st and 2nd down. A third down, which is another problem. We talked about the clock stuff. Well, your 3rd downs are going to be key on that, getting on and off the field, and it hurts 3rd and goal in the red zone.
God, the clock rules drive me crazy, and we could go on about that. But yes, right, when you don't get off the field on 3rd down and that clock keeps on ticking, there's your possessions, right? That takes the ball out of the probably Ohio State's biggest weapon, right? Their offense side of the ball. I mean, we've seen that for years upon years. Here's another thing, though. You got to be gap sound, especially on short yardage, especially on goal line. You have to be gap sound. We're not picking on Lathan. I love Lathan. I think we can all agree that Lathan is a phenomenal player here at Ohio State and made a bunch of great plays Saturday and is going to have a massive year for this team. But here's another thing, right? Look at this defense. You got to be able to keep leverage. You look at JTT on this side. He knows, hey, listen, I've got this outside guy. I got to keep my outside shoulder free. Lathan on the top right here. Look, he takes on the guy's inside shoulder. Instead, he needs to take his left shoulder. His helmet's on the right side of this guy right now. It needs to be on the opposite side because who's on his inside? Sonny Styles is, right? Sonny's filling that gap that you can see right there. Lathan needs to be on that outside to force that ball carrier back to the inside because that's where all of his help is. Instead, Lathan goes inside, gets his hat placement on the wrong side. He gets stuck in the mush is what they call it. And then guess what? Running back's got an easy read, bounces it to the outside, easy touchdown. Basically, or it's a quarterback, but walk in. But from that standpoint, Lathan's got to contain, right? So, that's the issue here is that doesn't matter who's got the ball. You got to keep contained. You have to stay on the outside. All of your help. But pause it right there. Look how many defenders, 10 defenders of Ohio State are within probably a 7-yard gap. There's no contain right here. You got to have someone on the outside. That's simple 101 defense.
Yeah, there was nothing going up the middle right here. Ohio State had that covered. They got beat at the only place. Yeah, they got beat at the only place that they could.
Correct. And it goes back to what we were talking about Indiana when we were breaking it down, right? How many times did we see Sonny Styles have the running back or the defensive end have the running back last week, right? In this situation, guess what? Man on man, Sonny's got the running back, right? You saw the gap that he opens up. If Lathan gets to the outside of that tight end and is able to keep the quarterback inside, the guy's got nowhere to run. You stuff him, fourth down, kick a field goal, and guess what? It's 35-3, and you still haven't given up a touchdown all year.
Touchdown drives are going to happen. It's a long season. There were still a lot of positives in that game, but from time to time, we got to look and see how this might impact Ohio State moving forward. And I think that this is a learning curve, a learning lesson for the Buckeyes. Like, you're not a finished product quite yet, and the clock is ticking. Western Kentucky's going to throw it a lot on Saturday, key for the pass rush, and then there's that big one on the road in South Bend after that.
Very much so. And I love, I'm still super excited about this defense and what they can do. And the rest of Buckeye Nation should be extremely excited at what this defense is currently and what it will be by the end of the year. But like you said, you saw a different look. You saw a different look with Indiana. You got a different look last week with Youngstown State than you did the week before. And guess what? You're coming this week. We better be breaking down a bunch of pick sixes and sacks because Western Kentucky is going to come out and throw the dang football. So this defensive front better get after them. These DBs, guess what? They want everyone to change the way that they've thought about them the past couple of years. Guess what? This is that week. You show people what you can do. You're going to get 40 to 50 passes this weekend by Western Kentucky. Get out there and make some plays. Get some confidence going in against the first massive matchup of the year in Notre Dame.
All right. That sounds a lot more fun to me. Let's do that next week on BuckIQ. This episode, though, it's a wrap now. That's the positives. That's where Ohio State's learning from the negatives, and we're going to talk about, hopefully, the other kind next week after Western Kentucky. I know that's what Zach Bourne would prefer to do on BuckIQ, so let's plan on that. For Zach, I'm Austin. Thanks for joining us for this episode. We'll talk to you next week.